Ladies and gentlemen, President Trump has just issued an absolutely dire warning to Iran regarding their nuclear weapons program. Now, as many of you may know, 2 weeks ago, President Trump sent a letter to the Iranian leadership telling them that if they didn't agree to shut down their nuclear weapons program by the middle of May, just under 2 months from now, that all hell would break loose. In fact, take a look at this.
Iran is very high on my list of things to watch. And as you probably know, I sent them a letter just recently, and I said, you're going to have to make a decision one way or the other. And we're going to either have to talk and talk it out, or very bad things are going to happen to Iran. And I don't want that to happen. I don't want that to happen. My big preference, and I don't say this through strength or weakness, my big preference is we work it out with Iran. But if we don't work it out, bad things are going to happen to Iran.
You hear that, folks? Bad things are going to happen. And so yesterday afternoon, President Trump doubled down on all of that. As reported, U.S. President Trump threatens to bomb Iran if they don't agree to a nuclear deal. As President Trump said, if they don't make a deal, there will be bombing, and it will be bombing the likes of which they have never seen before. So yeah, folks, as far as President Trump is concerned, Iran's nuclear weapons program is a red line in the sand. Under absolutely no circumstance will President Trump allow Iran to have nuclear weapons. Now, it's worth noting real quick that one of President Trump's overarching presidential goals is nuclear disarmament. He's actually engaging in ongoing negotiations right now with both China and Russia to start reducing everyone's nuclear stockpiles. In fact, I'm sure you've all heard President Trump talk about nuclear doomsday. Well, that's not just some talking point. No, it's a very serious and genuine concern. So avoiding that nuclear doomsday is understandably one of President Trump's key objectives. And so because of all of those concerns, like we said a moment ago, President Trump is not going to allow Iran to get nuclear weapons. Now, while putting together this video, I was actually surprised to learn that Iran had actually pretty much entirely shut down their entire nuclear weapons program between 2003 and 2018 because of their concerns about America's presence in the Middle East. Then, in 2018, that's when Iran started exceeding their nuclear enrichment limits, and that pretty much means only one thing: they're trying to create nuclear weapons again. In fact, in 2023, just around 2 years ago, we actually got a report from the International Atomic Energy Agency suggesting that Iran was getting very close to successfully enriching uranium up to weapons-grade levels. Now, for reference, a nuclear energy reactor, a power plant, needs uranium that's enriched to around 3%, whereas a nuclear weapon needs uranium that's enriched to around 90%. And as of that 2023 report, Iran has been able to enrich uranium up to around 60%. And keep in mind, that report was from 2 years ago, so it's probably safe to say that Iran is a little bit further along in the process now. But anyway, all of that is why President Trump has effectively given this ultimatum to Iran with a 2-month time frame. Shut down the nuclear weapons program, or we are going to bomb you. That's pretty much the deal. Now, folks, before we really get into the substance of Trump's ultimatum here, first we need to acknowledge that this country absolutely cannot afford to get involved in yet another never-ending war in the Middle East. We can't afford it. We have our own domestic issues here in America to take care of right now, but most importantly, young American men and women shouldn't be getting blown up in the Middle East. Those days have got to come to an end. And so really, that's the big gamble here with bombing Iran if they refuse to shut down their nuclear weapons program. What are the odds that if we start bombing Iran, that this entire situation escalates into war in the Middle East 2.0? Now, of course, over the last couple weeks, America has been strategically bombing the Houthi terrorists in Yemen, and it doesn't really seem like that's going to escalate into having American boots on the ground. But it's worth acknowledging, Iran is not Yemen. Although severely weakened over the last 2 years, Iran still has an elaborate terrorist network all over the Middle East, maybe even here inside of our own country, and also, to be frank, Iran isn't exactly a poor country. They have a robust military, they have a lot of weapons as well as ballistic missiles, and if they're so inclined, they could probably do a lot of damage. It would just be ignorant to not acknowledge the reality of the situation. Now, with all of that being said, in 2015, we all saw firsthand what happens when you're too gentle with Iran. Because what happened was that Iran pretty much just pretended to go along with Obama's infamous nuclear disarmament deal in order to have all of their sanctions lifted. Then, secretly, they pretty much just continued developing nuclear weapons. So given that happened less than a decade ago, under the same Iranian leadership, mind you, there's not really any reason to think that Iran can be worked with diplomatically. Also, the fact of the matter is this: Iran has actually very effectively insulated their entire economy from any sanctions that America could really impose. We can sanction them all that we want, but really, it's not going to do much. So what all of that means is that pretty much if Iran refuses to shut down their nuclear weapons program, we don't really have many ways to stop them outside of getting more aggressive. And that is exactly what President Trump is doing right now. You see, over just the last couple of days, the United States has relocated up to 7 B-2 Spirit stealth bombers to an island in the Indian Ocean called Diego Garcia. Now, worth noting, this island is a little over 3,000 miles away from Iran, which is beyond the range of Iran's ballistic missiles, meaning that we would pretty much be able to bomb Iran with complete and total impunity if that's the road that we choose to go down. It's also worth noting there's something very unique about these B-2 Spirit stealth bombers. You see, these planes are incredibly unique in that they're the only plane that can carry the GBU-57AB massive ordnance penetrator, which is pretty much the biggest non-nuclear bomb that we have in our entire US military arsenal. In fact, this bomb is actually more destructive than some of our smaller end nuclear bombs. And also, the deployment of these B-2 bombers to this island, Diego Garcia, isn't exactly being done in secret. There are actually videos of this happening all over social media right now. So folks, here's what I think is going on here. President Trump is sending a very clear message to Iran. And that message is this: if you don't completely shut down your nuclear weapons program, we're going to start dropping 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs on all of your key military sites from undetectable stealth bombers that took off from an island that's over 3,000 miles away beyond the range of your best weapons. And so that is the message that President Trump is very clearly sending right now. Now, folks, here's my opinion on what I think happens with all of this. If I was at a Las Vegas betting table right now and I had to place a bet, I would bet that within the next couple of weeks, Iran capitulates and agrees to completely shut down their nuclear weapons program. Because everyone, here's the truth. President Trump absolutely has the capacity to take out every single one of Iran's nuclear weapon facilities, and you know what? Iran absolutely knows it. Now, folks, before we wrap up with today's video, I want to say real quick that I've actually gone ahead and made a community Facebook page where I'll be posting additional news and updates as it relates to all of this. So hey, if you guys use Facebook, check out the pinned comment down below and give that page a follow. But everyone, that is going to be a wrap for this video, so please go down below and drop a comment. Let me know what you think about all of this. Please like the video while you're down there. As I always say, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton with my daily struggle here on YouTube. Thank you all very much for tuning in today, and of course, as always, stay safe.